Hi everyone, welcome to John and Tris Chats.
Sorry that we're giving free information out.
Yeah. This is a running specific
video.
Yeah.
There's certain times where I think stretching is actually just really unhelpful. If you have pain at the end of the tendon into your bone, like an MSopathy, it will just irritate it. Bending over and touching your toes is probably, the nervous system's not going to relate that to a running position at all.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to part 2. This bit's about the ugly part of, well, it's not the ugly part, it's just the bit that Tris suggests that you probably don't do.
Or just don't do for as long. Stop wasting your time going as long.
That's fair.
So, I wonder how many people will comment on this.
Wow.
I'm going to say now.
I'll tell you how many people are going to comment. Based on how many comments we get, on average.
But people like to comment more about like negative stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
So I guess this is really the biggest thing is we're going to talk about kind of stretching and foam rolling. If we start with foam rolling.
I just want to say that foam rollers are alright.
Yeah.
They're alright.
Yeah, you can use them for lots of different things. You can use them to get your pelvis moving, you can use them to load yourself up. I think yours is in my attic at the moment. With foam rolling, it's what we know about foam rolling is probably not the narrative that most people consider. And so what we know it does do is it tickles your nerve endings. And your nerve endings and therefore will decrease tone in the area and will give you a little bit more range of movement. But what we know is because you're not putting any load or any significant load through the muscle, that it's having an effect from anything from a minute to 5 minutes, and then all of those benefits probably go away. So
how long is it?
No, but people feel good from it. So this is where I'm saying, do it if you feel good, but do it for a minute, don't do it for half an hour.
Yeah. And
we also know that the effects you can get from foam rolling an area are no different if you do it for a minute or 30 minutes. That's well proven in the literature. You will get no added benefit for doing it for an extra 29 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Same as a massage.
Yeah.
You feel like how many times you go for a massage, not very because we're not affluent enough, but you go for a massage and you feel good that day, you wake up the next day, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing. You're just tickling nerve endings. I always say, like people, it's like if you got an itch and then you pinch it, it just plays with a few nerve endings that are
they quickly subside.
Yeah. So, foam rolling, I think do it if you feel good. Don't feel like you need to do it more than 5 minutes tops. Do not compromise any of part 1 to fit your foam rolling in. And the second one, you can have a big long conversation about stretching. I think stretching is big, firstly like a definition. If you ask that guy, I can't think of his name now, he's flexibility research on Instagram, Dan something, he will talk about like 4 ways of stretching.
Okay.
The important, again, a lot of it is around the narrative and what people are doing and what they're not doing. First of all, I think what stretching doesn't do is very unlikely that you are getting length in your actual muscle when you're doing it. So you're not getting added like fascicles in your muscle. And again, the increase in movement that you will see pre and post stretch is from modifying the nervous system. So essentially desensitizing the nervous system to allow you to move a little bit further into that range.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what a fascicle is.
Just like the building blocks of the muscle.
Is that?
Yeah.
Fascicle. Yeah, that's fascinating.
So if we think about potentially some of the benefits of stretching, is that the load is unlikely to be sufficient enough to do anything to the muscle because it's relatively low load, and it tickles the nervous system again, but it gives you a bit more access to movement. Doing like strength training, or how we were talking in kind of part 1 about how to set up your strength training with mobility in mind, is going to tickle the nervous system. It's going to make the nervous system feel at ease in running specific positions, and it's actually going to put load through your muscles, so it's a lot more likely to not only just affect the nervous system, but actually have some adaptation in muscle tissue because you're putting a lot more load through the tissue to encourage it to tap into some of those kind of more plastic elements. And again, people feel good after they stretch. Absolutely got no issue with stretching, but if you are compromising any of the good stuff, stretching, it's just not the one.
Away from running, stretching from a holistic training perspective, what's your thought on that? And what I mean by that is general well-being, joint health.
I think there's certain times where I think stretching is actually just really unhelpful. Insertional tendinopathies being one of them. If you have pain at the end of your tendon into your bone, like an MFSopathy, it will just irritate it. So that's an absolute. And then I guess it depends what you consider stretching. But if you're thinking about kind of passive stretching, for me it's just too reductionist. And so, for example, what I would say is if you stretch your hamstrings all the time and you get really good at, you can bend over, you can palm the floor, I'd say at what cost? Because if you can do that, it's likely you're going to have an anterior orientation of your pelvis because you kind of almost stretch yourself into that position, and it means therefore that your glutes are not going to be able to go through their full excursion. So I think getting really flexible in one area is going to steal movement away from another area.
I'm just thinking about, as people get older, people want to maintain mobility, but that's probably another misconception, that it's not about creating mobility by stretching, it's about being mobile.
Exactly that, yeah. And that's like what our society loves to do. We love to do something for 99% of the time and then try and undo it in 1%. And I know it's hard, don't get me wrong, like we sit at desks, that's what we do, but living an active lifestyle and using the movement that you want is the best way to be mobile.
Yeah.
And some specific bits, like we were talking, like if you are unable to lateralise your pelvis, do a lot of exercises where you set up in that position and condition your body to kind of give you access to that through the kind of nervous system and getting that excursion through the muscles. Rather than being overly reactive and relying on something so heavily, it needs to be a little bit more kind of holistic than that, I think. Runners stretch because other runners stretch.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like a peer pressure within the community.
Yeah.
You can tell people that I told you that
you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Feel comfortable about that.
You will live. I think people talk a lot about kind of pro athletes and like these fly on the wall documentaries that come out, and they watch all this, what the pros are doing, but like we're not pros. And we work full time. We've got to sleep. We've got to eat. We have a hour window, if you're lucky, daily to get stuff done. You need to be attacking the 95%, not the 1%.
Yeah.
Pro athletes can do the 1%, right? We need to do the 95%.
Which is what an FRC.
Yeah, FRC is functional range conditioning, another 3-letter acronym. So I'm going to butcher this in a definition, but it's essentially end range active mobility. So rather than passively doing things, it's basically getting muscle contraction at end ranges.
Yeah, I know that you butchered that.
Okay, thank you very much. And they tend to use a couple of modalities, again more acronyms. CARS, which basically just means going around, I'm going to butcher this again, but in like trying to get one joint to express its full range of movement and going through the whole 360 degrees of that.
And it's outer range.
And combining all planes of movement.
Yeah.
Again, so they're probably quite helpful for maintaining range of movement you have. I don't think it's going to do anything to improve your range of movement, but if you've got that range, you want to keep it, probably not a bad maintenance thing to do daily. Again, if you're a pro athlete and you've got 23 hours a day to do what you want to do, if it takes 25 minutes to do CARS in all of your body, then I probably wouldn't do that. And also they're also quite not helpful if you've got any joint pain whatsoever. I think they can be quite aggravating. They hunt those out quite well. And then they use pails and rails, which basically means put your joint into an end range position, get it to contract, the antagonist to contract, and then the agonist to contract. Which I just think again it's just too low level. I think it's two things. It's too low a load to really change anything too much, and I think also it's too reductionist in thinking about how the body works. Like, we can't just look at the hip, put a stretch on the hip, and think that that's then going to be integrated back into the bigger picture when you run, because sitting in a straddle position and getting your nervous system to relax is your body, when you're running, it's not going to go, oh yeah, I remember that straddle position. It knows movement patterns. It's familiar with joint position and movement patterns. And what's more is, like we said in running, you don't need that. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody that's listening to this, one person, has enough hip mobility to run.
Yeah.
Maybe if you are a gymnast, spend some more time in those positions, but not for running.
Yeah.
It goes to your strength training as well. Like, strength training and mobility, it needs to look like running. You don't need to, your strength training doesn't need to look like a powerlifter's training of doing heavy sumo squats, and similarly your mobility training doesn't need to look like you're a gymnast trying to get the splits. Get good at running positions. Make your mobility and your strength training mimic positions that you run in: phases of gait, early stance, mid stance, late stance. And I think people try and do that 1% sprinkles on top, and they're just not doing the 90%.
Yeah.
You can do a buy us a coffee thing on YouTube. We should definitely do that. We like
You
coffee.
can do that, can't you?